Okay everyone, it's Voodoo 51292, and today we are doing yet another one of my official game reviews. And the game that we're going to take a look at today is a game that was highly anticipated this year in 2011, and is the follow-up to one of my favorite games of all time, and it's a game that I'm probably going to be doing a pretty hefty game review for. So I would strap in if you're watching this game review, because I'm going to give you everything that I can, and it's probably going to be a really long review, but I feel that this game deserves it. And the game we are taking a look at today is the first person or third person, you can play it either way, RPG slash action adventure game, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. And people who are watching this review new might be a little confused as to why I'm making this review now, because I haven't technically beaten the game. But the thing about The Elder Scrolls Skyrim is, because of how much content is in this game and the kind of game it is, like I said, it's an open world RPG style of game, it is, you know, you don't necessarily beat this type of game. Sure, there's a main story that you can complete, but I would assume, like every game that these developers have made, Bethesda Softworks, that you would be able to continue playing the game after you've beaten the main story. So there's really no technically beating the game. You beat the game when you don't feel like continuing your current playthrough, or you're just done, you know, doing all the side content. I really doubt that anybody could do all of the side content in this game. So since there's no real beating the game, and I've actually already played 97 parts of this on my channel, already making it the longest playthrough I've ever done on my channel by far, and obviously I'm still going, so I've put in almost close to 20 hours of gameplay into the game. I feel like I have a good enough perception of the gameplay. I've fleshed out pretty much the gameplay of the game. I have a good idea of what the plot is, how it's going so far, and I know enough about this game to give it a fair review. And if I continue the game and at some point, for some unknown reason, the game decides to take a wild turn in one way or the other, I'll make an addendum to this video and fix it. But since I don't foresee that happening, I feel like I can give the game a fair review, and since who knows when I'll stop playing this game I'm going to be playing probably into next year. There's going to be DLC and everything, and with the holidays coming up, you know, people want to get a review of Skyrim and see if they should get it or not for the holidays. So I'm going to do my review now, and I think it's going to be fair and just. Okay? So, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, like I said, it's a first-person or third-person action-adventure RPG made by Bethesda Softworks, who is also the creators of the Fallout series. And so, if you're familiar with Fallout, Skyrim is very similar in gameplay to Fallout games, but it is different in a lot of different ways. Obviously, the setting is different. This is set in a fantasy world, similar to very many fantasy universes that you've seen before, such as in the Lord of the Rings and other fantasy books and things, where you're going to have different fantasy races. You're going to have orcs, you're going to have elves, you're going to have different races of humans, you're going to have elves, different races of elves. You learn about the dwarves, you have mages and magic and, you know, mystical creatures. You have, you know, there are dragons in the game, which I'm sure if you've seen anything about Skyrim, you know there's dragons. I mean, there's a dragon symbol on the front of the game box. So it's set in that kind of a fantasy universe, which is obviously different than Fallout. And instead of guns, like I said, you have melee weapons, you have ranged weapons, you have magic and things like that. And the leveling and all is somewhat different than Fallout and everything else. So let's try to tackle all of the gameplay involved in Skyrim. Well, actually, first, I want to kind of give an overview of what's going on in the game. What's actually going on in Skyrim, what's the story. And there's a lot of different working pieces, but basically, you, pretty early in the game, find out that for some reason, dragons are returning to the realm of Tamriel, which is the continent or the universe that all the Elder Scrolls games have been based in, but you're in the province of Skyrim. And for some reason, dragons are now returning. They haven't been seen for hundreds of years, but for some reason dragons are coming back and people don't know why they're coming back. And you actually find out pretty early in the game that you're a very special kind of person, and you are called something called Dragonborn. And basically that means that you have some share of dragon's blood or something like that. I'm not really 100% sure how you are Dragonborn, but you are something called Dragonborn, which gives you the ability to actually absorb a dragon's soul when you kill it. And it also gives you the ability to use something very interesting called a thuum, which is, or in common speak, a shout, where basically you can project your voice using dragon language, dragon words, and you can project your voice very easily into a kind of power. And basically that's how they explain how dragons can breathe fire. In this game, it's not just dragons breathing fire. They have dragons that breathe frost, dragons that have electricity or can stagger you. So it's kind of an interesting take on dragons where, okay, they don't just breathe fire, but they explain kind of how the dragons in this universe do it. They speak, they have the ability to speak words and translate that into a power. And being Dragonborn, you have the ability to do the same thing. So that's really what's going on. You're trying to figure out what's going on with the dragons, why they're coming back now, what the significance is. There's also a very big underlying plot where actually the realm of Skyrim is being tossed pretty much into a civil war. And you've got basically the Stormcloaks, who are the rebels, they're Nords, and basically they believe that Skyrim should be free and independent, that, you know, they shouldn't be under the rule of the Empire, and the Nords are feeling threatened that their way of life is being compromised, and they want to rebel against the Empire. And then you've got the Imperials, who believe that Skyrim should remain under the control of the Empires, and are fighting to keep it under their control from the Stormcloaks. And you're kind of, in the game, supposed to kind of take a side as to which one you actually want to join. And so that's basically the plot and the subplot of the game. But, you know, the main story quests are only just a small part of Skyrim. And games from Bethesda are always about the side content. And the side content in this game is unbelievably huge. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of hours of side content. You can find ridiculous, huge amounts of side quests, and you can find them any which way, from talking to people in town, from searching a random dungeon and finding a note which starts a quest, or, you know, there's all sorts of different ways. Usually they're instigated by talking to people, and these quests can be literally anything. You need to go find an artifact, or you go, you know, look for certain books, or you go infiltrate a dungeon and kill someone, or you need to, you know, go through a secret chamber and solve puzzles to recover an item or solve a mystery. It can be that complex, or it can be very simple, such as deliver a letter to someone in town and deliver correspondence back and forth. There's just 100 different, you know, side content, side quests that you can do, and it's really unbelievable the amount of side content in the game. But so that's basically what's going on with the plot of Skyrim and kind of the atmosphere of Skyrim where it's based. Let's talk about the gameplay. And there's so many elements of gameplay that there's not... If I went into all the specifics, this video would be 3 or 4 hours long. Seriously, it would. Because I could talk for that long about this game easily. But for the sake of time, I'd like to keep this review under an hour. The gameplay. There's, like I said, a million different aspects of gameplay, but let's talk about the core gameplay. Let's talk about, you know, choosing a character, leveling, what kind of character you want to be. Basically, in this game, even the leveling in this game, I'll say, and the way your character plays is, in my opinion, even more intricate than it is in Fallout. In Fallout, you kind of say, okay, you know, either I'm going to use guns or energy weapons, they're both really guns, or I'm going to be unarmed, or something like that. And, you know, by the end of Fallout, you can pretty much be good in everything. You can pretty much, at the end of the game, max out everything. You can be good in really good in guns, really good in energy weapons, even good in unarmed if you choose. The way you play Fallout is specific, but in Elder Scrolls, in Skyrim, it's very specific, and basically you can play it however you want to. I mean, you can be a straight-up warrior tank that walks around all in heavy armor with a shield and a sword and just barrel through everyone with massive amounts of health, but not using any magic. You could choose to be a balanced battle mage, which is what I've chosen to be, where you can, you're good at using weapons, melee weapons, and blocking, but you can also use magic, and you're pretty decent at using magic, which is, like I said, is what I chose to be. You can be a pure mage, where you walk around and you just wear robes, and, level up your magic to a ridiculous extent. You don't have much health. If you get hit a lot, you'll die pretty quickly, but the point is that you use your magic to keep enemies at bay and kill them before they ever get a chance to hit you. You can also be a thief, a very stealthy character who has very high sneak and can walk around a dungeon and stealth kill everyone, and is very good at theft. So you can really play the game however you want, and it starts very early on because you get to pick your race. You get to pick what kind of a race you want to be. I believe there's 10 races in the game, and there's certain races catered towards different playing styles. So for instance, a good amount of the elves, you get certain perks and things with each race. So for instance, the elves, and I believe the Breton race, have a high amount of magicka that they're born with. So that would lend you toward, being a mage. If you want to be a mage class, you might pick a high elf or a Breton, and then you already have extra magicka when you start. There's some classes such as Red Guards and Orcs, which are, very strong. They have a lot of strength, and, they lend themselves well to being pure warriors. And there's some that are balanced, such as the Imperial, which I am, which is good at both. They're good at using combat, they're good at using destruction. You're not ridiculously overpowered in one or the other, but you have a good balance. And then there's races like the Argonian and the Khajiit, which are very good at being thief characters. And so you choose your race, and it really kind of, dictates your playing style. And then there's the leveling. And the leveling system in the game is very different from Fallout. And, in Fallout, you gain experience points. And as you gain experience points, you would level up. When you level up, you can choose to put skill points into different areas, and every other level you get to pick a perk. Well, in this game, you don't get experience points. The way you level up is each of your individual skills actually has their own level, and they level up as you use them. So for instance, there's one-handed skill, and the more you use one-handed weapons, the more that one-handed skill will level up. And when a skill levels up, it in turn adds a percentage to your overall level. And that's the way you level up in the game. And there's all sorts of skills that you can level up. I mean, they're all in different categories. For instance, you've got like your warrior skill, you've got your one-handed, two-handed weapons, heavy armor, light armor, blocking. Then your thief, you've got, lock-picking, speech for better bartering, things like that. You've got all of your different areas of magic, which you've got destruction magic, which, is fire, ice, things used to kill. Restoration magic, which are healing spells. Conjuration magic, where you can, conjure beings or conjure creatures to fight for you or capture souls. You can, there's alteration, which can change the appearance or what's the word I'm looking for? It can actually change, like, metal. It can change metal from one form to another. So there's all those different kind of skills. So the skills are really, really well done, and the more you use them, the more you level them up. And every time you level up, what they've added to the Elder Scrolls series that they didn't have in Oblivion is actually you do get to pick perks similar to Fallout, but it's every level you get to level up one thing. So when you level up, they give you the option to either level up magicka, health, or stamina, and you pick one, it increases it by 10, and then you have the opportunity to choose a perk, and you can choose these perks within each skill. So for instance, you can level up, and then you have a perk to unlock, and you can unlock a perk in, let's say, one-handed weapons. And the perks are level restricted most of the time, where you need to be a certain level in one-handed to use it. but for one-handed they'll include things such as, one-handed weapons do 25% more damage, or one-handed weapons are this much more likely to, score a critical hit. Things like that. And there's perks for all your skills. You can say, oh, for the block, choose a perk that says your shield reflects this much more percent of damage, things of that nature. And so the leveling system is different than Oblivion's. They've changed it. It's similar to Oblivion, but it's different. The skill sets are different than Oblivion. I remember in Oblivion, you had skill sets like your blade skill as opposed to your blunt skill. Well, now it's changed to one-handed weapons and two-handed weapons. So it's kind of changed a little bit from Oblivion. They tweaked, refined it, and it's different. But that's basically the core gameplay, the combat gameplay, your character, and obviously the more you play as your character. For instance, if you play as a pure mage, you're probably going to be using a lot of destruction magic and to kill your enemies, and so your destruction magic will level up like crazy very quickly, and your character will naturally, it's a very natural process where your character will naturally get better and better and better at the things that at the class that you choose your character. So for instance, like I said, if you're a mage, you're naturally going to get better at destruction and naturally going to improve as a mage. And whereas again in Fallout you kind of choose what you want to improve. In Skyrim it's a very natural progression of, okay, I want to be a mage, I'm going to use my destruction magic, and naturally as you play as that mage you'll get better and better and better at being a mage and at using your destruction magic and things of that nature. So I really like the leveling system in Skyrim. I think it's very well done. I think it's improved over Oblivion, and I think it's even more refined than Fallout's leveling system, and really lets you play and hone your character the way you want to just by using skills. Yeah, this review is going to be extremely long, and I figured it was going to be. I'm almost at 20 minutes already, but I wanted to say what I wanted to say about the game. And I'm not going to cut any corners. So that's basically that. Now there's all sorts of other kinds of gameplay. You've got, usually in these type of games you've got your bartering system, where, looting and things is very important. You go in and loot and, find all these different items, and you can go and sell the items, and you'll find items that are actually enchanted, meaning that they have some sort of, ability magically infused within them, and you'll find things enchanted that will play towards your character and may, not have anything to do with your character, and you may sell them. For instance, you may find robes, if you're playing as a mage, you may find robes that, oh look, if I wear these robes, my destruction, I can cast destruction spells with 25% less magicka. Which is your magic ability. And you may say, well, that's great, I'm going to pick that up and wear it for myself. But then you may find, I don't know, a sword that is enchanted with fire damage. Well, you're a mage and don't use swords, but it's worth a ton of money, so you may go sell it. And the bartering system is different, again, from Oblivion. It has, your prices and all depend very much on your speech skill, and there's no haggling of prices like there was in Oblivion. You could haggle back and forth to try to get better prices. They took that out of this game. For me, it's neutral. I don't dislike it. It's kind of what it is. But there's the bartering system. Then, like I talked about, there's a whole enchanting system where you can actually enchant your own weapons. And again, this is drastically changed from Oblivion. In Skyrim, to learn enchantments, for you to enchant future weapons, you actually have to find an enchanted item and destroy the enchanted item at what they call an arcane enchanter, which is like a, it's a little table that you find in some cities and some random places in the game. But when you destroy the enchanted item, the item actually is completely consumed and destroyed. So, you may find something, you may find if you're a warrior, you may find those mage robes that let you cast destruction spells for less, but maybe you're a battle mage and you don't want to wear the robe. Well, you can destroy the enchanted robe, learn that enchantment, and then in turn enchant your own helmet or your own armor with that enchantment to where it actually helps you and what you want to do. And to do that, you need what they call soul gems, and you need a conjuration spell. in order to capture souls. And you can go around and cast this conjuration spell on an enemy, and then when you kill it, the soul absorbs into the soul gem, and you can enchant your item with a soul gem. And again, there's an enchanting skill, and you know, the higher your enchanting skill, the stronger your enchantments are. The enchantments actually do run out over time, and you need to recharge them with a soul gem. But the enchanting system, again, I think is very good. You actually have to make a decision to destroy items, to learn the enchantments, enchant something else. So I like the enchanting system. There's also an alchemy aspect to the game where you put different items together to make potions. And again, they changed, in my opinion, improved the alchemy over Oblivion. And basically, as you find ingredients throughout the world, you can taste them to learn their different effects. And once you do that, and once you learn their different effects, you can combine different ingredients together to make different potions. You can combine like ingredients with similar effects together, make different potions, or you can just try random ingredients together, and sometimes you'll discover a new potion, learn a new effect of an ingredient. So there's that aspect, the alchemy aspect to it. There's also blacksmithing and forging, where you can actually go around the game and find different metals, different ores, and you can go to a blacksmith and you can actually create weapons and armor. You can actually create jewelry if you find the right jewels and necklaces and things. You can create, you know, things to use for yourself, or you can sell them. There's also a weapon improvement system where you can find different irons or different, you know, whatever your weapon is made out of, and you can go to a grindstone or an anvil, I believe, are the two main things that you go to, and you can improve the weapon that you're wearing, or I'm sorry, the armor that you're wearing or the weapon that you're carrying. So, yeah, there's a lot to the gameplay here. There's a ton, and you can do anything you want, and it's so much fun to just be able to always be concentrating, always looking at different things, you know, creating potions, enchanting your weapons and armor, you know, it's very exciting to loot and find some of these enchanted items. It's exciting because maybe you'll find something that's like, wow, that plays right into my character, that'll really help me, I'm going to wear that. Or you can find something that says, wow, I don't need that, but that's an awesome enchantment, I'm going to destroy it, learn the enchantment, and enchant something I already have with it, or sell it. And it's just a lot of fun. The gameplay is a ton of fun. There's so many things to do in the game that you really just don't get bored of the gameplay. You never get bored of going through dungeons and searching, and you know, some of these dungeons will have hidden secrets that you need to solve using puzzles, and you know, you can find really cool enchanted weapons. I just went on this really long quest through different areas and had to fight different bosses and things and collect different amulet fragments, and finally was able to combine all the amulet fragments together and have this amazing amulet now that I get 30 points boost to my stamina, magicka, and health. And it was like a 2-hour or longer quest where I had to get all these things, get them together, and forge them. And it's just a hell of a lot of fun, and there's so many different things you can do that you really never get too bored. It's awesome. And with all of that, you know, about this game, the environment of this game is outstanding. It actually is the first game to run on Bethesda's brand new engine, and the graphics of the game are, now we're talking about console versions obviously. The PC version, the graphics will always be elevated, it's the way it is, but on consoles, the graphics are pretty good. You can tell that they're improved over the previous Bethesda games. Fallout New Vegas and Oblivion and all those games is improved. They're not amazing, stellar, blow you out of the water graphics, but you can't expect that. If this game had that, it'd be on 18 discs, okay? But that's, you know, that's the way it goes. And, you know, but the game, you can tell, runs better. The frames are higher most of the time than they were on previous Bethesda games. It's less blocky. You'll notice that the character models, in my opinion, are vastly improved. In other games from Bethesda, sometimes you run into these people that are like gender ambiguous. Like, they're so badly rendered that you can't tell if it's a male or a female. You really have no idea. In this game, it's very different. Some of the women actually look attractive in this game. You can easily tell who is a female, who is not. And, you know, the engine is sweet, and the environment of this world, like I said, you will be lost in. It's one of those environments that grabs you, pulls you in. They've got a wide variety of environments across Skyrim, from, you know, snowy mountains that, you know, are just harsh conditions and look amazing, to swamps and marshes, to just luscious forests. I mean, the game really looks beautiful, and again, it's not graphics that are gonna explode and blow you off the screen like Uncharted or anything like that, but people who have played previous Bethesda games are going to play this game and say, wow, that's really improved over what I used to know from Bethesda. So that's a good addition. Well, actually, honestly, it's not that bad. We're only at 25 minutes. It's really not as bad as I thought. And it's just an environment that's going to take you and really grasp you. And I love the fact there's randomly generated weather in the game, so you may be walking around and it'll start raining, or, you know, you'll be up in the mountains and all of a sudden you'll get hit with a heavy blizzard and you can't see anything. And it's amazing. The atmosphere, the environment of the game, it's outstanding. And, you know, it's really, really neat to see the environment of Skyrim and see it run on the new engine. Because it's well done. And, you know, I love the randomly generated, enemies and things in the game. You'll be walking around, and not just enemies, but, you know, random creatures that will spawn. You'll be walking around and you just have, you know, moose running freely, or and, you know, they interact with each other. You may have a fox walking around, a bunch of wolves come and swarm and attack the fox, or people may be walking down the street and they might get attacked and you can go help them. And of course, the main thing that's the most random spawning in the game, but usually provides a lot of hilarity and fun, is the dragons, because sometimes the game will randomly spawn dragons. And you may be just walking along, and all of a sudden here comes this dragon out of nowhere, and it initiates this crazy fight, and you have to, you know, fight the dragon. And obviously that's good in some ways, bad in some ways, where, you know, you want to kill a dragon to absorb its soul, because that's the way you actually unlock these thuums or shouts that you learn. You actually walk around the game, and in different areas, hidden areas of the game, you'll find what they call these word walls, and you actually learn words of the shout, and the way you unlock them is with dragon souls. And so, you know, it's a good thing and a bad thing, because dragons are difficult to kill. Obviously, you'd expect that, but when you do kill them, it is, you know, you absorb the soul and you can unlock a shout. So that's neat. So, also, going back and kind of touching on the gameplay. The gameplay of the game, it's very rewarding. Okay, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of games out there, okay, where the combat may just feel cheap, really cheap. Meaning, like, you know, you come up on something that you should really kill easily, but the game kind of, you know, you get attacked in a way, or they bring so many enemies at one time or whatever that, you know, it's just cheap, and you die very cheaply, and you feel like you're getting ripped off, okay? There are parts of this game that are very difficult, and there are some parts that you will go into, and if you've watched my playthrough so far, you'll know that one of those areas I went to is Northwatch Keep, where it's a very difficult area, where you may have to fight some very difficult enemies, but for the most part, okay, there's very little things that I find cheap about the combat, and to me, the combat's very rewarding. I mean, if you're getting attacked by a dragon, yeah, you can expect that the fight's going to be hard as hell. But when you kill a dragon, you feel very rewarded for it. You felt like you put in a great fight. You didn't feel like you had to really, you know, use cheap tactics, or the dragon was just really cheap in what it was doing, and, you know, have to replay it 1,000 times to kill the dragon, you know, being cheap or whatever. Now, there are some, you know, situations, I guess, bugs and stuff where you can be cheap, but normally it's good, and when you fight these hard opponents, you recognize that they're hard, and it feels good when you beat them. And sometimes it forces you to change strategies. Maybe you have to use a different kind of magic, or attack in a different kind of way, maybe use a certain kind of poison against them, because you can poison your weapons in different ways. And so it's really kind of a direct, your combat experience is kind of a direct feedback on your character, how good your character is, and you know, how well you fight, how well your tactics are, how you fight, and things of that nature. So in my opinion, the combat is pretty rewarding in the game, and there's not a lot of times where you feel really cheap. You know, where it feels like the combat's just being stupid and unfair, and you know, now there are some parts that feel that way, but like I said, for the most part, it doesn't. So, just the last thing before we start talking about the few negatives that I do have to say about the game. You know, I was talking about how big the game is and how much content. First of all, let me show you the map that came with the strategy guide for this game. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to see if it's well centered because I can't see through maps, but hello, you can see me on the side. This is the map that came with the strategy guide. Yeah, it's that big. Okay, so that's how big the world is. Here's your strategy guide. If you thought the strategy guide for Fallout New Vegas was big, you ain't seen nothing yet. Bam. This is the strategy guide for Skyrim. It's ridiculous in size. It's absolutely absurd. Let's see how many pages. It's 653 pages, and the text is really, really tiny. So, yeah, there's a lot of content in this game. We're talking hundreds of hours of content, and there's no way, if you plan on playing anything else in the next year, that you are going to be able to do everything that there is as far as side content. So, let's talk about some of the things that I did have some problems with here and there with Skyrim. They're few and far between, but I do have some things to say. The first being that for some reason, they took away, you'll remember in Oblivion if you played it, when you fought an enemy, it told you what level the other enemy was, and they don't have that in this game. They don't tell you what level the enemy you're fighting is. At least, if I remember correctly, they told you the level in Oblivion. And it's kind of off-putting, because sometimes you'll fight an enemy that's just really fucking difficult, and you're like, why is this guy so tough? And sometimes it takes a while to figure it out, because you're like, is it because he's a much higher level than me? Is it because I'm not doing something correctly? You know, why? And it would be nice if they told you the level, that way you would know, okay, this guy's a way higher level than me, maybe I have no business fighting him right now, or, whatever reason. That would be nice to have. Another problem I have is it seems like they've really overpowered magic in this game. It seems like when the enemies hit you with magic in this game, they do unbelievable amounts of damage. And I remember one quest I'm trying to do to retrieve this weapon from these witches, and I get past the first couple, but then there's these creatures, and I forget what they're, Hargravens, something like that have this rape fire spell, and it was sitting on top of a cliff, and before I can even get it in view, it hits me with these fire spells, and I die immediately. It only takes like 2 hits, and it's a little weird that, just when people hit you with magic, it's way powerful, and it seems like it does a lot more damage than it did in Oblivion. Maybe I'm wrong with that, it just seems that way. There are some bugs, some glitches in the game. You can expect that with a game of this size. It's nothing to the caliber of Fallout New Vegas. So far, I've experienced little to no glitches in the game. The most I've encountered is, floating weapons, floating bodies, things like that. Just normal little glitchy stuff. Nothing game-breaking. I've come across no quest bugs, nothing that has impaired my gameplay of the game at all. In fact, this game hasn't even frozen on me one time. Now, my friend Tyler has the game for PlayStation 3. His is frozen a couple of times. I have read reports where the game does freeze occasionally, and I doubt I'll get through the whole game without ever having it happen. But so far, over 20 hours of gameplay, hasn't frozen one time. At times, the frame rates can plummet. It doesn't happen very often. It happens very few times, but sometimes it can on the 360. There's also a bug where apparently if you install the game on the Xbox 360, the graphics actually go down, the graphics quality. I did install it simply because the loading times I want to be, you know, rather quick because there's a lot of loading. And the graphics don't seem to go down very much, so for me it's not a big deal. So there are some bugs, some problems. Minor though. Nothing on the level of New Vegas, but then keep in mind, New Vegas wasn't actually made by Bethesda Softworks. It was made by Obsidian Entertainment under Bethesda's publication. And obviously I think Bethesda realized their mistake after that came out and was basically broken about how many bugs there were. But this, nothing on that level. The puzzles, I find, are actually extremely repetitive. It's like the same puzzle in every single location you go. Basically, the puzzle is you've got pillars with 3 different animals on it, a snake, a dolphin, and a hawk, and usually you have to turn each pillar to have a different animal, and usually there's solutions. You know, you go somewhere and it shows you the solution that you have to turn the things to and it opens a gate. And that's pretty much the only kind of puzzles I've run into in the game. And it's really kind of boring, the fact that, and when it's not even a challenge to find the solution. I mean, usually the solutions they just put right in front of your face. It's not even like you really have to figure anything out to actually, you know, solve these puzzles, and they're all the same, which is a little boring. You would think that they could change it up a bit and put some different puzzles, or at least make them challenging at points, you know, if anything, and not just, you know, painfully easy. And really, the last complaint I have about the game is that it's not a game necessarily that, if you're not familiar with Elder Scrolls, meaning if you didn't play Oblivion and you try to jump into Skyrim, it's not a game that you're going to be able to really jump into and immediately know what you're doing, you know, figure out what you're doing, figuring out, oh, you know, to enchant weapons I need a soul gem, you know, or to figure out, hey, I need to loot this is worth, you know, a lot of money, or hey, I should collect these ingredients to you know, make alchemy. You wouldn't know, for instance, if you hadn't played Oblivion, that silver does extra damage to spectrals, things like that. I knew that, so I always keep a silver sword with me. So it's a game, it's not a game like Dark Souls, for instance, where it doesn't tell you how to play the fucking game. It tells you basically how to play. It's pretty good at explaining stuff, but if you haven't played a game like this before, like an RPG, you know, Bethesda style of game, or even an Elder Scrolls game for that matter, it's going to take you a little bit of time to get used to it, to get used to the, you know, to get used to the style of it, to get used to what you should be looking for, what you should be carrying, what you shouldn't be carrying, things you need, things you don't need. It's going to take you a little bit of time to kind of get into it and really figure out the best way to play the game. And let me just check my phone in case this is some kind of an emergency. Alright, it's not. But that's somewhat of a complaint I have. It's not really a complaint I have, like I said, because I've played Fallout, I've played Oblivion, so I kind of knew going in what the kind of game was going to be. But, you know, it is what it is. And so, just a couple things I want to touch on now that I'm remembering that I didn't talk about in the gameplay, because remember, I freelance these, I don't have notes or anything, mainly because I'm lazy. But a couple of things, now I forgot one, but one I definitely wanted to mention was the fact that actually, as far as the weapons and armor, as you level up and as you become more powerful, the weapons and armor you will find will actually level up. You'll find that you'll find better armor, better weapons as you level up. Vendors will have better stuff to sell. For instance, if you start off with heavy armor like I had, you'll probably start off with some hide armor or something like that. Then you'll get iron, steel, and I just got to a point now where the shops now have dwarven armor, and I just bought dwarven armor, which is better. The weapons you'll find better weapons like dwarven swords and things like that. So the world kind of levels up with you, and you kind of find, you know, the enemies level up with you as well. Like the dragons, you just start off fighting regular dragons, then I believe you start fighting blood dragons, there's elder dragons, so the game around you levels up with you. But you can still feel more powerful than you were before, whereas, you know, there's something called a restless draugr, which is basically like a zombie. But it's a pretty powerful zombie. In the beginning of the game, it kind of kicks your ass, but as you level up, you kind of start to kick its ass. And even though the game levels up with you, you still kind of feel like you're advancing, like you're feeling more powerful. It's well balanced. I'm not exactly sure how they pull it off, but that's what they do. And it does feel like you're getting more powerful, but the world around you, the weapons, the armor, the enemies will level up with you. And that's kind of neat. I did forget the last thing I was going to say, but it is what it is. So, whew, a lot of talking, almost 40 minutes, but I need to explain everything there is in this game because it's important for people to know all the kinds of stuff you can do in the game and really how deep and engrossing the gameplay of this game is. So, after saying all that, it's time for me to give my rating, my score, a scale from 1 to 10 of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Bottom line, it's a game that has hundreds, literally hundreds of hours of content, just so many different gameplay elements that you can do, participate in. The leveling system is done very well, and you know, the world is amazing, the new engine looks great. It's just a good plot. The plot is fun. It's engrossing so far. It's compelling to try to find out what's going on with these dragons. You know, what's the deal with you being dragonborn, to see how the Civil War is unfolding. And really just a great package for $60. I mean, it's pretty funny nowadays. You can buy a game for $60 like Homefront, where you play the game for 4 hours, you beat the game in one sitting, and you have some shitty online play. You know, or you have a game like this which sells for the same amount of money, $60, and the amount of content blows your mind away. The thing that blows my mind away about this, check this out. Well, I don't have the disc in it because it's in my Xbox, but only one game disc. That's only room for one disc. They fit all of this on one DVD. I don't know how they managed to do it, but that's awesome for the Xbox 360. I was pleased with that. With a few drawbacks here and there. The last drawback I want to talk about is it doesn't say you must rest and meditate on what you've learned when you level up. They took that out from Oblivion. That's classic. How can you take something classic out of Oblivion and not put it in Skyrim? I'm just kind of joking around. Obviously, it's not a detriment to the gameplay, but people who are fans of Oblivion might be like, come on man, that was a classic line. You must rest and meditate on what you've learned. Plus, I believe it was in Morrowind as well. Not in this game. You can actually level up whenever, wherever you are. But anyway, final score for Skyrim. After saying all of that, I'm going to rate Skyrim... I think I'm going to give the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim a 9.3 out of 10. And the only reason I'm taking some partial points off is, again, some people have reported that as far as bugs, it can freeze your console, crash it. That's really annoying. You don't want to be doing that. The fact that, you know, some of the puzzles are very repetitive, and you can do. I know that's nitpicking, but it is there is somewhat of a drawback. And the fact that the game, you know, isn't necessarily a game that the common gamer can jump into and immediately really do well in the game. It's a game for the common gamers. It's going to take them a while to get into, to learn. And for the common gamer, it may be a little over-exhausting. I don't find it like that. It's nothing like a JRPG, which to me is just way too much work. You really don't need to... There's no grinding necessary in this game or anything like that. It's not a very complicated RPG, but there are some complicated elements that will take you not a lot, but a decent amount of time to master if you're new to this type of game or new to this series of games. And the fact that, yeah, you know, sometimes in combat, the magic is really overpowered, I think, in this game, and a little bit too much, I think. But, you know, those are all pretty small gripes with the game. But overall, the game is exceptional. It's outstanding. You can't get a better value for your money than this game. You can't do it. And obviously a very big-time Game of the Year contender. And, I mean, when you put it up to games from this year, you just can't match the content. You're not going to get a game this year that has the kind of content that Skyrim has. You're not. Not only that, but all the content is fun. The gameplay is fun as hell. The story is very good and engrossing. The environment you get lost in, and it's an exceptional game, really. And if you're gonna get one game for the holiday season that you want to last a good time, a good amount of time, and you want to have a hell of a lot of fun doing it, get this game. I'm telling you right now. Anybody who enjoys this type of game, this type of lore, this fantasy lore, go out and buy Skyrim. You are going to love the game. If you're a fan of Oblivion, you get this game, you're going to love it, I think, even more than Oblivion. It's an outstanding, outstanding game, and I couldn't have been happier with the money I spent on the game. So, Skyrim gets a 9.3 out of 10 for me, an exceptional, exceptional game, and I think everybody should go buy it, because it's just a fantastic game, and I think you'll really enjoy it, really love it, and replayability value off the charts, and you know, there's a lot of hilarious moments that happen, a lot of fun moments, memorable moments. This is the kind of game that you want to spend your money on. Good job, Bethesda. Not just good, amazing job. This is how you make a game, right here. This is how you make a fantasy RPG. The Elder Scrolls sets the bar, and everybody else has to catch up. And so far, I don't think anybody has even come close to catching up. So, excellent job, Bethesda. I love the game. Thanks for sitting through this really long game review, but I thought it was necessary for all of those interested in buying the game. My advice, buy the game, alright? So, I'm Voodoo 51292. I'm in no way, shape, or form done playing Skyrim. I will continue to play it. Please watch my gameplay footage if you're interested in the game and you want to see my gameplay of it. And I hope everybody goes and buys the game and has a great time. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with another one of my game reviews.